what I love? I love seeing Kevin O'Leary. We're going to look at him in a minute. We're going to look at some of these shock numbers that are coming up in the election, comparing, Biden's results with Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and then Harris. It's wild broadcast. And we're going to come back with this special broadcast I'm doing with Murillo and Todd Coconato, and we're going to talk about the spiritual warfare that is materializing and what it's going to look like. Get this, after November, going into the next year, because we're already seeing where this thing is going. We're going to give you a preview of where the battle's going to go after the election. You want to go to lancewallnau.com/break free, because I'm putting together the two most powerful tools I've got for spiritual warfare. We're going to be talking about national media coming at you, trying to tear you up and twist you around and beat you up. But I say it's Leviathan. It's that old crafty Leviathan spirit, and how to break controlling spirits. This is how you pray to deal with the attack, and this is how to discern the attack and position yourself. Want to go to lancewallnau.com/break free, and for only $39, you get not just one, you get two products with my special guarantee that if it doesn't give you results, send the product back and I'll refund your money, because this stuff actually, bam, works. All right, you want to get into the broadcast. Don't miss a moment of this compelling interview with Mario Murillo on his program, Firepower.
And one of the things that is happening that is removing the protection of the left is that it's becoming incredibly clear that one of the most important things to the Americans, the real Americans, is the economy. And now that is being exposed in a way I've never seen before. We're going to see Kevin O'Leary, you know him from the Shark Tank. He's going to be answering a question about investment that suddenly exploded into an argument against leftist policy that is truly remarkable. So let's roll the tape right now.
I don't put companies here in New York anymore, or in Massachusetts, or in New Jersey, or in California. Those states are uninvestable. The policy here is insane. The taxes are too high. We put them in Fargo, North Dakota, because 40% of the people work elsewhere, including Boston. So I was, a bit of a debate with Elizabeth Warren about this, but I say, look, Senator, we've got to move the companies out of your state because you're not investable anymore. You're punishing people if they're successful. You overtax them. You hit them with a super tax. New Jersey, what a mess. New York, uninvestable.
Wait,
California,
why is New York uninvestable?
Try and do a project in New York. Try and build a data.
I'm asking, Don's point, is it beyond the taxes?
Oh, the regulatory environment is punitive. I had a project in upstate New York behind the grid in Niagara Falls for electricity, a global data center we were building. Eventually, it got so bad with the politicians in the local region and the state policy, we moved it to Norway and all the jobs. Wow. Norway has it now. Thousands of jobs coming out of that. I mean, that's New York, uninvestable. Sorry, don't shoot the messenger, just telling you the way it is.
Yeah,
that's it, uninvestable.
Some pushback from our elected officials in New York on that.
I was just going to say Kathy Hochul.
Yeah, but
I'll debate them any time of the day you want.
We would love to set that up.
Particularly
I'd watch
AOC,
that.
she's great at killing jobs. She kills jobs by the thousands.
Wow. AOC kills jobs by the thousand. Lance, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. The real issue is what kind of wisdom is it that alienates thousands of jobs, tax-paying jobs, and takes it to Norway? Once again, I mean, I hate to harp on this subject, but if you go to James chapter 3, verses 17 and 18, the Bible says there's two kinds of wisdom. The wisdom that comes from above is rational, open to debate, and able to be modified, meaning enlighten me if I'm missing something, because it's interested in truth. It's not interested in the acquisition of power. And then the other kind of wisdom is earthly, sense-dominated, meaning it's emotional and mentally manipulative, and demonic. There we go again. So when you're dealing with a Marxist ideology, something which has conquered a third of the world at various points in time, you're not dealing with your little nicotine devil here. You're dealing with a world-ruling ideology whose enemy is the Bible, absolute truth, and Christianity, and that it functions in the manner of emasculating work, emasculating economics, exalting an ideology of equality, and destroying the means of prosperity at the same time, which produces anarchy that the government then takes over and has control of. That, my friend, is earthly, sense-oriented, and demonic strategy. Don't think there aren't people that are trying to break down the open border is a way of flooding the American culture with something that cannot be assimilated so that it can reconstruct and reimagine America or totally transform it into what? The Marxist utopia that has never worked before. That's the ideology of the left, and tell me that is not demonically sophisticated because it's working.
I think, Todd, you have a question that for Lance, and I think this is really where I think this we need to go now. This is really critical. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask you, what do you do when everyone's attacking you? How do you respond? What would Jordan Peterson, someone like him, say when everybody's attacking? What do you do?
Well, the first thing is you learn from the attack. If the wisdom that is from above is first peaceable and open to reason, then I learn from that. And I learned that my experience now is that if we are going to go in the direction of spiritual warfare, well, then it's going to be provoking a pushback. But that might also mean that God is moving us in the direction of actually a more intelligent confrontation with the powers of darkness, a bigger conversation on that. But the main thing is fear, intimidation, manipulation, and domination. The very forces that define witchcraft is what attacks you. When you have all of the media misrepresenting what you are and who you are, essentially slandering you, you have to then realize, well, I will not respond to the intimidation and the manipulation and therefore capitulation on what I know is true. And then the second thing is, I'm challenged by the fact that when the apostles were rejected as they were preaching the gospel, they dusted off their feet, meaning they made a symbolic protest. And then the Bible says they were filled with joy and with the Holy Ghost. So I will not be happy until I've not only pushed past the panic and fear of all the incendiary negative media and actually enter into the joy of the Lord. Because I really do think that what's happening here is a spiritual thing, and that the majority of my focus in ministry is on advancing Christian, sensible engagement in culture, and therefore the enemy wants to push back at that. So I'm just going to have to double down on my agenda and get filled with the joy of the Lord.
Powerful.
Yes.
Every Christian who's watching now needs to take something away from this show. And we got to nail it down, what it is we want you to take away from this show. I have a rule about preaching a sermon. When I talk to young preachers about formulating what they're going to preach about, how they open their sermon, how they close it, what they do. And there's this towering question that I always ask anyone I'm teaching on preaching about. I said, why are we talking about this? That should be a motto that's emblazoned on your desk. It should be ever present. Why are we talking about this? Jesus always knew why he was bringing up a subject. He always understood this is why we're talking about this. We're talking about this tonight because they're not after Lance Wallnau. They're after you. They're after your right to vote. They're after your children's future. The reason that I read in Psalm 72, where it said that I was silent because the wicked were so strong and it seemed like everything they did prospered. And well, it's easy to have that feeling right now that the media is in charge, that the overwhelming amount of influence in America is governed by the left. Well, while that's true, I like what Tucker Carlson said. When people speak truth calmly, they become powerful. And it's the iron law of the universe is that truth will ultimately prevail and a lie will not. Whatever these leftists did to Lance and said about it's all going to fail because it's based on a lie. And what Lance is saying is going to prevail because it is the truth. But what you need to learn, who are watching, is that you don't stay silent in a culture that is decided that you don't get to have an opinion. You don't get to disagree with them. They have reasons to be offended by everything you're saying to them. You can't let that change you. And the part about Jordan Peterson, he said, when you say something that is violently rejected, wait 2 weeks and guard your emotions. I've done it. I've read a blog that people just caused a firestorm. But 2 weeks later, the trajectory began to change. So when you speak the truth, you don't apologize. And you understand why you're saying something. So that is a key moment. Where do you see, Lance, the election right now? I know that I just had to throw that on you without warning, but where do you see it at right now?
I see it as momentum for Trump, and this is my personal obsession with Harris is that in 2017 I singled her out while she was still a state senator, and I predicted she would be the chosen, and I said the devil was going to choose her to be the adversary to Donald Trump because the Lord showed me that in 2017. I actually put a Facebook post out pointing out President Harris to warn the church while she wasn't running. So I've already got a history on keeping an eye on Kamala in terms of not her. She's, as you can hear, she's not exactly the articulate antichrist that's going to seduce the nations. She's an empty suit. She's a vessel, but she's a vessel that's filled with a very powerful agenda. What I see is that Trump right now has momentum, and therefore 2 assassination attempts worries me because the spirit of lawlessness that will not back down is capable of a third. And so we must continue to pray supernatural protection. That's all we could do. In Arizona, as of today, Mario, a strange thing has happened. Not only did the machines all break down when Kari Lake was having her election in Maricopa, not only was there a questionable and dubious activity during the 2020 election, but there's been some, again, criminal activity going on that allowed 280,000 people who are not authorized to vote to all be put in the system to vote. And they will not sort out that theft or what their votes are until after the election. So in a state that gets decided by 20,000, they just put 280,000 fake votes in and can't fix it till after the election. This is the characteristic of demonic lawlessness.
There it is.
This is demonic, folks. So I see that every state is going to have to be very vigilant, like Arizona, to keep the theft from happening. But as of now, I believe that the indication is that the more time, we need time, the more time that exposes the real nature of the incompetence of Harris, forget the demonic stuff, the incompetence of her to rule, the easier it is for Trump to make the case. You may not love me, they may have smeared me, but you do trust me to fix the economy and to deal with other nations. And on those issues, immigration, crime, economy, and global peace, Trump is now is winning in the swing states. And so that's the important thing. And I see that as our advantage. But I just want to point out one quick soundbite. The left, if they succeed in putting Kamala through, understand they've already said they want to pack the Supreme Court. They want to alter the Electoral College. They want to add 2 states into becoming represented by the United States. If they can get the executive branch, if they can get the House, if somehow they can get the Senate, understand their agenda is to permanently alter the ability of an opposition party, in which case them going after their lawyers, them going after the people like Trump, trying to lock up politicians or silence the free speech of people like myself is the inevitable next step. It's a totalitarian threat. And that's the reason why I believe it's spiritual warfare over the United States. We're entering a period of time that has increased hostility against people of faith. It's a time when Christians are going to be tested on a moral, physical, psychological, and even a financial basis. I'm here to remind you that God is the one who has blessed you thus far, and He will take care of you in the future. You have a divine responsibility, however, to see trouble and prepare yourself. For example, with record inflation eating away at the value of the US dollar, the savings in your retirement account is in danger of slipping away. I recommend diversifying your 401k or IRA out of paper assets and into physical gold. And the best way to do that is with a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. Now that includes no penalties, there's no taxes when you transfer current retirement funds into Birch Gold. To see how it works, I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get your free info kit, and you'll be glad that you did.
Recently, Elon Musk wrote an article. If Kamala wins, it will be the last election.
That's right.
That's an amazing statement, isn't it? What do you think?
It certainly is. Well, and it's got a lot of people thinking, because that, he's not somebody that just shoots off the hip. I mean, what he's saying is right. And what Lance just articulated is absolutely correct. Both you and I have lived in California. We've seen this happen before. This happened in California. Now they have a uniparty there, and that state is under the trap. It's very hard. They got voter, ballot harvesting. You don't have to show ID. Anybody can just go into any precinct anywhere and vote. That's crazy. I mean, you don't really even have to prove who you are. And that's what they would love to do all around America. And so that's why Elon is putting out he's a businessman. He's one of the richest people in the world, like the richest. He understands, hey, I want to make money, just like Kevin O'Leary was saying. And I thought that was so interesting, because he's sitting there with that panel, and they want to defend New York and the laws there, but they can't, because we have the facts. This isn't, like Lance just said, we don't even have to make the spiritual argument, which of course is the most important argument, but just the facts alone of what's happening on the ground, the laws, the policies. There are no policies. They have no policies. They have no argument. At least in the days of Newt Gingrich, when you go across the aisle, there could be a debate on issues. That is gone. That's not happening right now. All they're doing is anything but Trump, trying to demonize anybody who comes out and speaks to these matters. That's what we're dealing with right now. And I'm just going to be real. The emperor has no clothes. People, this is what's happening right now. People have to understand the Wizard of Oz has been exposed, and that's why they're attacking broadcasts like this.
Yep.
And the one hope that I have is the fact that the real distribution and the audience for hit pieces like that is smaller than it's ever been, because the price the media is paying for being ideologically captive, like the Huffington Post or the Washington Post, like that, is that they're not talking to our people. So in an ironic way, I've got people that are talking to me and texting me, having completely oblivious to what's happening, because they're not reading the Washington Post or the Huffington Post. They're not looking at the New York Times, which, by the way, are all this week editorially supporting Kamala Harris's presidency. So the realization is there's a political agenda behind legacy media, and they lost so much credibility that that I would say that it's okay if they attack us, but it doesn't mean that attack is actually having the effect it would have had 10 years ago, because the mask is off and the American people. In fact, one of the funny thing is when I watch some of the Twitter responses to attacks on me, there are people I don't even know that jump in and challenge the credibility of what they just watched on PBS, for instance. Like, they'll attack me as a dangerous nationalist, and people just go in and say, oh, PBS, like that's an objective source. It's a left-wing funded Democrat entity anyway. And I'm reading this and going, oh my gosh, the American people are now more educated than they've ever been.
And there's so much going on right now. People are trying to say that Trump's association with Christianity is a liability. I'm telling you, it's just the opposite. I'm looking at our tent crusades, and we're currently in a crisis. We got a problem. It's kind of embarrassing. We have huge numbers of people that aren't Christian coming to our meetings. We don't have nearly enough people to pray for them. And we're in a crisis right now. And that's why I'm actually going to put in a plug here. that if you can be a volunteer for our crusade, October 27th through the 30th in Tulare, all you got to do is look below at the website, mariomurillo.org. If you'll go there and be a volunteer. We have the churches, several hundred churches are jumping on board, but we need them to translate their support into volunteers. And it's going to be big. People are hungry. People are starving for a move of God. And you have an event too, Todd. Tell us a little bit about it real quick. And then I want to ask Lance another burning question.
Okay, yeah. This weekend, myself and Joseph Z and Alan Dididio are going to be having an event at his Encounter Church, and guess where it is? It's in North Carolina. So the Lord obviously knew there's a need in that area for encouragement for the people of God to gather. So we're going to be out there this weekend.
The question that I have, Lance, is this. I truly believe that one of the reasons that we're in the mess we're in right now in the church is because they have left signs and wonders behind. You had mentioned demon possession and the need for deliverance in the church. My take on it is that people's needs are supernatural now. And therefore, the church has got to understand this is a strange but important intersecting of the political and the spiritual. You know, we did early on a tour of Fire and Glory, and then it became the Courage Tour. I really feel like one of the major advances in this election has been for the church to realize that there is the need for political involvement and revival, and together they become reformation. And I think we point to that, and the devil's fighting us right now. But I really believe that there is a growing surge, and two groups are coming together. Early on, we detected the people that love Trump and America coming into contact with the gospel in America, and it's becoming a mighty force. Why don't you comment on that, my friend?
Well, I agree. I'm a cheerleader for everybody who's on the right, who's fighting. And it's why, like I used to say when Russell Brand was still Rascal, and I'd say, hey, I used to tell people in broadcast, we're going to pray for Russell, Red Rover. We call Russell over. I want to call all these guys over. We call Elon Musk over. We've been calling Jordan Peterson over. And what was great about it in Washington, they just had a gathering called Rescue the Republic, and they have thousands of people out there that are conservatives. And they're all, I mean, from Brent Weinstein to Russell Brand to Jordan to David Rubin, all of them, and it's a large, diverse group. Even Christians might be uncomfortable with, but I love them all because they're actually all on the side of righteousness, and they're talking about this moment being. I mean, it's hilarious. Brent Weinstein, who's not even a Christian, he's a Jewish evolutionary biologist, saying, "I think America is like a biological situation where when you get older, you get infirm. When you get infirm, you get vulnerable to disease and death." And the only way that you can continue is by investing in the next generation of young people. And that's what we've got to do now. We've got to take everything, the most important things we've learned, and deposit it into the next generation of Americans, because we are a corporate David up against a global Goliath. And I just was smiling. I said, my gosh, even the secularists are recognizing it's a David and Goliath moment.
Yes.
And I saw none. I knew there were, Russell Brand's there. So he's great. He's kind of like a new version of an evangelist, but he's there because he's a celebrity. I didn't see us. I didn't see our movement there, but I celebrate it because it's exactly the front line of the secular, in a sense, conservative vanguard that we need. But the next chapter, my friends, I could see by the battle coming at me. What the devil knows is his real battle is going to come when the believers rise up and start to contend for their territory, because that's going to be a collision of spiritual forces. Who rules the atmosphere over the territory? And we're going to see the old time revivals like Finney had, which was in Rochester, Utica, and Troy. And Mario, we're built for that. And I know you want to go into the strongholds and centers, which I believe is God's like big detonations in San Francisco and other places. But what I see is that after the election, one way or the other. The battle is we're going to be more divided after the election than we were before, whether or not righteousness prevails or the enemy does. I'm counting on righteousness, but the battle's going to go to the states, gentlemen. And in the states,
Right.
It's going to be very clear that the mobilizing of educated, literate Christians in civic engagement and signs and wonders is going to be the new alchemy that will produce what I think is the final surge of an awakening that will break open whole parts of the country.
You know, and I said that the reason they attacked you is because they're panicking. And that's what Martin Luther said. The devil only attacks those he fears. The tectonic plates are moving. All of a sudden, Joe Rogan is moving in this direction. Robert Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk. So these tectonic plates are moving, but that's causing the left to panic. And I'm going to show you an example of hysteria. With the few minutes we have left, I want to roll this last video so that we can comment on it. This is what is scaring the elitist media, is stuff like this. Let's roll the tape.
Points that just jump off the screen should set off sirens. All right, this is union households. This is Democratic margin in presidential election. It ain't what it used to be. You know, you go back to 1992, Bill Clinton won that union vote by 30 points. Hillary Clinton only won it by 12 points back in 2016. That was the lowest mark for a Democrat since 1984, Mondale versus Reagan. But look at where Kamala Harris is today. She's only leading by 9 points. That would be the worst Democratic performance in a generation, 10 points off the mark of Joe Biden, who, of course, won 4 years ago, was sort of that union guy, Union Joe, right? Won it by 19 points. She's 10 points off his mark, and the worst in a generation, if this, in fact, holds, Sarah.
It is interesting to note that the difference between this, and Biden still won.
Still won.
But those numbers are significantly down. All right.
The numbers that are coming out of the national union vote are absolutely terrifying the Democrats. And now we've got new polling coming out of New York and New Jersey that's putting that terror on steroids.
So we got to call the devil's bluff. We got to realize why we're under attack. We are watching these alliances are changing dramatically. And that's why bold language, clear direction, staying the course, not apologizing is really essential.
Yeah, there's a number of reasons why this is a spiritual moment in American history. The future of our republic is literally going to be determined by the turnout and the honesty of this election process. When Elon Musk says that we could lose elections in the future, he's not speaking as a Pentecostal. He's speaking as a Tony Stark who knows what it's like to try to get his business going and what he's up against in the infrastructure that's trying to destroy it. My encouragement to all of you is that the issues here are so pressing and so clear that all you have to do is be reasonably informed and not be afraid. Go out and vote. That segment you just saw, Mario, says that the working class Democrat voters are turning more to Trump than Republican working class voters are turning to Kamala. That's the reason why she's scoring so low. And it's also a reason to be encouraged, because I think in Pennsylvania and other swing states, that's going to be the key factor, the voting of the working class.
So take us out. I want to thank Lance for being here. And Todd, take us out with the last few seconds we've got.
Yes, well, this is how what the devil meant for evil is turned around for good. You've heard an amazing argument that was anointed tonight. Continue to pray, seek the Lord. Don't grow weary in doing good. Thank you, Lance, for being on. And this is Firepower.
Well, folks, that was one unusual, and I think that's an interview for the ages. I'm telling you, there's so much more I wanted to talk about, but, you know, it just didn't seem to fit in. The one thing I want to say to you is this, that you can use the secret weapons that God has given you to break free from controlling spirits, including controlling thought patterns. I have to deal with it right now, the attack of media. But you know what the Bible says? Psalm 56:5. All day long they twist my words, but The Lord is with me. I want you to put these two together and make sure you get both of these products for your spiritual warfare equipment, especially going into Halloween. You know what I mean? LanceWallnau.com/break free. Guarantee it's going to work for you. You listen to both of these products, and if they don't revolutionize your thinking about spiritual warfare, send them back, and I'll send you your money back. How's that for a money-back guarantee? Listen to them and watch what happens. LanceWallnau.com/break free. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.